I am so excited that you have joined us for this exploration of this beautiful book all about love, New Visions by the wondrous Bell Hooks. I was joking with Reverend Shannon earlier. I actually considered just standing here and reading you this chapter and calling it a talk. It is that good. So if you have purchased the book, I know many of you are following along, make sure you make the time today or tomorrow and read this beautiful chapter called Healing, Redemptive Love, and allow that to just kind of anchor in everything that we're talking about today. Redemptive love. I love this word, redemption. Don't you hear it like that? Redemption. Rand, you made that sound really cool. Thank you. Redemption. It makes you think of like a great sports situation where like they lost in the finals last year, but this year they come back to win it all. Redemption. I don't watch a lot of sports ball, although I did enjoy a Rihanna concert last weekend. Although I kept wanting her to get her and her baby off of those big old platforms, put your feet back on the ground, and bring the sports ball back, because that was really scary. No, I don't watch a lot of sports, but I do love the Olympics. And there are these stories of redemption everywhere in the Olympics, and I love it. I was thinking about, I sat and I thought, what story of redemption do I remember from the 2020 Olympics? And this is what immediately came to mind. There's a track and field star named Allison Felix. Do you remember Allison Felix? She's a phenomenal sprinter. She has won medals in the 100, 200, first woman to win 1, 2, and 400 medals. Like, she's just this incredible force of nature, Allison Felix. Well, in 2018, she was renegotiating her sponsorship contract with her sponsor. This is how they feed their families while they are spending 90 hours a week training for the Olympics. This is really important, these sponsorship contracts. And in 2018, she was renegotiating her contract, and her sponsor basically cut her salary by 70% because she was planning on having a baby. And she was planning on having a baby and working the entire time and going back to work. She was training for the 2020 Olympics. But the sponsor said, pregnant people are worth less to us as an athletics company. So they offered her a contract worth 30% of what she was being paid before, and she said, no, thank you. No, thank you. And she turned down that sponsorship, and she started her own athletics company. She kept training. She had a beautiful baby girl, and she came back to win at the age of 35. She won 2 Olympic medals in track and field at the 2020 Olympics. She has won, over the course of her career, 10 national titles and 11 Olympic medals, which makes her the most decorated Olympian in track and field. Like, she's amazing. And the story sticks in my brain as a story of redemption because someone literally told her, you are worthless. You are worthless. And she said, no, I'm not. And she stood in her truth and redemption. She came back and showed the world and herself, I imagine, just how worthy she is. I love this story of redemption. So, love redeems. We love characters. We love characters in fiction, on television and theater who have redemption storylines. They're everywhere. They're in the Bible. They're in Greek and mythology. They're on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You remember what's his name? Spike? Do you remember Spike? Do you remember what he did? Redemption. How about Alexis Rose on Schitt's Creek? Ew, David. Like, by the end, didn't you want to go shopping with her and be her best friend because of her heart of gold? Really, all of the Rose family, I think, had a redemption arc over the course of that series. We love it. We love redemption stories because there is something about a redemption story that is showing us out there that redemption is possible, that redemption in our life is possible. We love the character that is redeemed. We use this idea, we like to speak about someone's redeeming qualities. Like, sure, your Aunt Marge never had a nice word to say to anybody, and she ruins like every family meeting that was ever, like every holiday. God bless her. Aunt Marge was a different kind of force of nature. But you know what? Every single holiday, all throughout the year, she sent handwritten notes to every single grandchild. And that's what we spoke about at her memorial service, was the love that was underneath everything. That love was redemption. And we all connected with it, all of us. So you know I love words. So I went where I always go when there's an interesting word. Redemption is a really interesting word. So I went to the dictionary. When you look up the word redeem, there are 8 definitions. The first one, to buy or pay off. Okay, it's like you redeem your mortgage. When your mortgage is paid off, you redeem your mortgage. Okay, so the next one, to buy back, like after a foreclosure. Okay, the third definition, to recover something that has been pledged or mortgaged by payment or other satisfaction. It's like to redeem something at a pawn shop. Okay, there's 3 definitions of the word redeem that have to do with paying money to get something back that you think already belongs to you. All right, number 4, to exchange like bonds, trading stamps, coupons, etc., for money or goods. Number 5, to convert paper money into coin. Number 6, to discharge or fulfill a pledge or a promise. Let's see what number 7 says. To make up for, to make amends, or to offset some perceived fault or shortcoming. So there we go. It takes us 7 definitions to get to where redemption is in our hearts, in our souls, in our bodies, right? Everything else, all of these other definitions of this word have to do with getting something back through the exchange of money. Isn't that interesting? I'm thinking about Alice and Felix and her being told she was worth less and her redemption story. I think we often think of this word redemption as some sort of moral coupon, right? I failed over here, so now I need to redeem myself over here in the eyes of the world and in the eyes of myself. I have a suspicion based on my own experience and on the stories that you tell me that we spend much of our lives striving for redemption. It happens because there's some experience in the past that has created a wound in our psyche, a belief somewhere in us that we have somehow failed and that we have to redeem ourselves. For some of us, this wound happens in childhood, in a dysfunctional family setting, perhaps. And we get so busy trying to prove to others that we are lovable that we forget our inherent nature is love. Some of us are carrying around these wounds from years, even decades ago, something that we have done that we were never able to really forgive ourselves for. And because we have this burden that we carry, we have convinced ourselves somewhere, somehow, that we are less worthy or maybe not worthy of love, of compassion, of companionship, of comfort, of joy. And so this old wound keeps us stuck while we do our search, our work for redemption. I think this is why the stories of redemption in sports and television touch us so deeply, right? It's a reminder that redemption is possible. And we all have places, every single one of us, where we feel like we've missed the mark and that there are amends to be made. I think this is why what Reverend Shannon was talking about last week was so powerful about this idea of giving others the benefit of the doubt, leading from that love ethic of benefit of the doubt. Because I don't know what wounds you're carrying. I don't know. And so I can be kind. I can lead from compassion. The least thing that we can do is to be gentle with each other and allow others to have safe passage through our mind. Wounds are kind of part of this human condition. According to bell hooks, the important thing isn't what the wounds are, it is what we do with them. She says, contrary to what we may have been taught to think, unnecessary and unchosen suffering wounds us, but need not scar us for life. It does mark us, she said, but what we allow the mark of our suffering to become is in our own hands. Is it going to make you harder, or is it going to make you stronger? She goes on to quote James Baldwin, who wrote about suffering in the healing process in his collection of essays called The Fire Next Time. He said, I do not mean to be sentimental about suffering, but people who cannot suffer can never grow up, can never discover who they are. Why do you think that is? We can embrace the lessons of life. We can choose to feel instead of numbing. We can choose discomfort, even suffering, in the name of growth, simply so that we can discover the truth of who we are. Bell Hooks goes on to say, to choose growth is to embrace a love that heals. To choose growth is to embrace a love that heals. This is no coupon redemption. This is the activity of redemption of the divine. It's fueling our spiritual growth until we realize that no, we do not have to redeem ourselves. In fact, we only need to be ourselves. That is that nature of divine love. Remember how M. Scott Peck defined love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. And remember how we talked about how the highest purpose of relationships is to keep us involved with each other so that we can grow and learn to be the love that is our nature and our purpose? Well, according to Bell Hooks, healing can't happen in isolation. Healing happens in communion. Being in relationship means that we will sometimes experience suffering. We will experience pain. But by choosing to be in healthy relationships where we're safe to talk about hard things, where we are safe to bring our whole selves to the table, we can create spaces in the world where we can do just as much growth through joy, through mutual understanding, through peace. But it all happens together. It all happens in communion with each other. So without saying, here's a 3-step process for experiencing the redemptive power of love in your life, Bell Hooks gives us a 3-step process for experiencing the redemptive power of love in our lives. The first step, according to Bell Hooks, is prayer. She says, prayer provides a space where talking cures. She goes on to say, prayer is an exercise that strengthens the soul's power. Reaching for the divine always reminds me of the limitations of human thought and will. Stretching, reaching toward that which is limitless and without boundaries, is an exercise that strengthens my faith and empowers my soul. Strengthens my faith and empowers my soul to reach for that limitless something. I love this idea of finding faith in that exercise. In his beautiful little book, Can We Talk to God?, Ernest Holmes talks about this idea that we don't have to go searching for that limitless something because it's in you and it's in me. He says, therefore, we must each penetrate more deeply into our own nature, and just so surely as we do, we will find a depth to ourself that we have never realized. This is where we meet God. God, or love, or spirit, or source. this limitless power, this limitless love lives in you. So where do you feel it the most? Some people have a heart connection with that limitless love. Some people have a very deep and brilliant connection in their minds. Some people feel it most in their gut, right? Where are you most connected with your own true divine nature? Recognize that this limitless love resides in you, and prayer provides a space where talking cures. Isn't that beautiful? So step 2, according to bell hooks, of living a redemptive love is service. She says, love in action is always about service, what we do to enhance our spiritual growth. Why service? In the philosophy of AA, the Friends of Bill W., there's a wonderful understanding that once I am starting to walk my own path of healing, I can't keep it until I can give it away to another. And it's such a beautiful example of what true service is about. When we're truly in the energy of service, we have to set our own agendas aside. Because if we're serving to get something in return, that's not actually service. At worst, it's manipulation. And at best, it's just trying to get a need met. It's okay to get your needs met, but be really clear about what service actually is. Service is about setting our own needs, our own agendas aside so that we can be in compassion to see the needs before us and to serve those needs. We are agents of redemptive love when we set our egos and our attachments aside and just give to each other. The third thing that Bell Hooks recommends is forgiveness. She says, to know compassion fully is to engage in a process of forgiveness and recognition that enables us to release all the baggage we carry that serves as a barrier to healing. Notice that the way she speaks about forgiveness is a little bit different from how I've heard others speak about forgiveness, because it's about compassion and it's about letting that baggage be laid aside. When we are unable or unwilling to forgive, what happens is we get stuck in a paradigm of blame and shame. And when we are stuck in a paradigm of blame and shame, it begins to kind of ooze out into all of our lives. So if I'm in an experience over here, having an experience where I am blaming and shaming myself or someone else, see, that's not siloed. That doesn't stay over here. Over time, it starts to ooze into my other relationships. It starts to ooze into how I feel about my body. It starts to ooze into how I feel about my work, right? Blame and shame isn't siloed in one place. And so forgiveness gives us an opportunity to get out of the consciousness of blame and shame, to move beyond that. So I'm going to tell you, on my personal journey, I've had some forgiveness to do. Forgiveness of others, forgiveness of myself. And I couldn't really engage in that forgiveness until I was ready to release myself from the concept of blame and shame. And I'm going to let you know right now that isn't a one and done situation. It is a daily walk of asking myself if I'm blaming anything, if I am feeling shame around anything. And once I was ready to release blame and shame in general, now I can recognize it a lot easier and forgiveness comes much quicker. But I could only do it when I was ready to. And that was okay too. Listen, if you're not ready to do the big forgiveness work, start small. Forgive yourself for that time yesterday when you acted on your first thought instead of your second thought. Forgive the lady in the middle school car line who was clearly raised on the moon and does not know how car lines work. If we all pull up together and let the children out, then we can all leave. I have some work to do, Reverend Shannon. I thank you for letting me still speak. One of my favorite forgiveness prayers is simply this: I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. That is forgiveness. Middle school car line lady, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Referee who made that terrible call and ruined the Super Bowl for all of Philadelphia fans, I raise you and I praise you in the name of love. Person at work who never stops talking about their cats and will not let you actually get anything done in your own cubicle, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. And when you've got that down, then you can go into your feelings a little bit and start working on some bigger things. IRS, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Person who hurt my child's feelings, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love, right? Person who got the promotion I wanted, person who walked in on the business deal that was about to close and ruined it for me. Whatever it is, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Eventually, you can get to a place where you can do the really big work. Ex-spouse who ruined my credit score, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Politician who is voting to repress my rights, I raise you and I praise you in the name of love. And some of you are going, Shelley, how can you say that? And here's how I can say that with true authenticity in this moment. It's because I finally, after doing this practice long enough, I finally came to an aha moment where I realized that when I raise them and praise them in the name of love, all that I am doing is empowering and enabling the love that is within them to lead their way too. It adds to the love in the world. Don't you want your ex-spouse to be led by divine love? I do, right? Don't you want the IRS to be led by divine love? I believe it's possible. I believe it's possible because I believe there's a lot of good that can come out of any situation and anything where you have a perception that you're powerless. That's where blame comes from, right? So I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Just think of one thing for you, an easy thing. I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. And notice how the energy shifts. And here's the fun thing about this practice. You can actually do it. Middle school car line lady, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. But you see, when I do it, I'm reminding myself to be in love. And this is one of those practices where it's not like fake it till you make it. It's more practice makes perfect. Because the more you do it, the more it immediately shifts you into that place of love within yourself. I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Bell Hooks says, shame breaks and weakens us, keeping us away from the wholeness that healing offers. When we practice forgiveness, we let go of shame. Embedded in our shame is always a sense of being unworthy. It separates. Compassion and forgiveness reconnects us. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be human. You are fully capable of making amends and making promise within yourself to not repeat things, right? It's okay. This idea that it's okay to make mistakes This is spiritual maturity. And for me personally, I couldn't come to it until I had healed some of the childhood trauma. You see, because the child within me was still trying to be perfect. So I'm just going to let you know right now, it's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes. You are quite capable of making amends and moving forward in a new direction. There is no place for shame here. The ability to forgive ourselves and allow ourselves back into that place of soul belonging is actually critical to our ability to live this love ethic that we've been talking about this month. Because you cannot be in a state of blame and shame and be in loving kindness at the same time. For yourself or others. It's really that simple. So, I want to turn this idea of redemption on its head. You are not a coupon to be redeemed, my love. You are not. Your worth has never been discounted. The movement of divine love is so powerful in your life. It is so complete that just that restores your identity with your true nature. That's the only thing that was ever broken. Darling, you just forgot. You see, your true nature has never been diminished. Never. This divine pattern of perfection, that is the blueprint of your soul, that is the most true thing about you, right? That has never been touched. It has always been there. It has always been perfect. What happens is we let our stories overlay that. And stories are more or less true, but they are not the true nature of you. Your worth is absolute. Your worth is absolute. So then the question becomes, as Bell Hooks so wisely taught us, what are you going to do with the story, with the baggage, with the suffering, with the pain? What will we allow it to become? What meaning will we give it? Will we choose to stay stuck in blame and shame? Or will we rise to a place where blame has no place in our lives? And when we notice ourselves in blame, we simply say, I raise you, I praise you in the name of love. Because there's only room, darlings, in today's world. There's only room for compassion and empathy and love. Only love. Okay, so the 3 steps: prayer, service, and forgiveness. Y'all, don't be afraid to pray. Don't be afraid to connect with the divine love that is your nature, your soul, the most true thing about you. Look, Spirit already knows. So you don't have to confess, but confession is good for the soul. And prayer makes a safe place for healing to happen. Don't be afraid to pray. You can lay it all out in utter safety because the thing that you are praying to is love. What would love do here? Be willing to set your own needs aside for a bit and serve others, because when you are in service to another, you are actually acting from that place of love within you, accessing the divine and making it manifest in the world. How glorious is that? And third, be willing to forgive yourself and others, to release yourself from the burden of blame and shame so that you are free to live in compassion and peace. And when you do that, you empower others to do the same. Love redeems by reconnecting us to our inherent worth. This is the redemptive healing power of the divine. And so it's simple. Let's go love each other and let's love ourselves.
Hi, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this message supported you. We are a nonprofit, and we do all of this based solely on the gifts that you give. No amount is too small or too large. You can text to give. You can go online and check out our website. We're doing so much. You can give that way. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this community, and for supporting this message of bringing more light, more love, and spirit-led social action out into the world. Thank you. You're loved. So loved.